Welcome back to another episode of Paradyme Podcast. We're so grateful that you're here. Thank you so much for tuning in. So before we jump into today's content, I'll let you know what we're reading. So we are finishing up the Iliad with books 21 through 24. This was written by Homer way back in the day. So before we jump into today's content, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the little notification bell so you're updated every time we put up a new episode, and drop a comment down below. How are you liking these like visuals that we're making and kind of these narratives and kind of summaries that we're doing, kind of a talk at the end. So we'd love to engage with you down in the comment section below. And yeah, we'll jump into book 21 with Devin.
All right, I'm going to share my full screen real fast.
So tell us a little bit about your creative vision. Have you been fine-tuning kind of how you're creating these, or are you kind of jumping aroing? What's your ideas?
So like I found this do I not have it up right now? Sorry. I got way too much on my screen. There's a platform that I used today. I used it last time too, but it's called Weavy. Inconsistent, but I stuck with it. I didn't go to a different platform, but essentially it gives you like the ability. I can't zoom in. Can you guys see this?
Yeah. There it goes.
Okay. Yeah. So it gives you the ability to like add prompts and kind of like connect it.
Wow.
So there's like consistency, but you have to choose the right image prompts. And so I just ran out of credits.
Bro, that's like a brainwave. I love that.
Yeah, so it's like, and this was my previous one, but this one I wanted to give more detail to, but it's not consistent. I just couldn't get it to be consistent, and then you end up spending like a lot of credits.
Yeah.
But this was my method. Again, you can kind of see that red vibe still there, which I like really love. So I'll get into it. I'm gonna go ahead and tell me if this is full screen for you guys.
You'll have to share that Weavy thing, bro. I need that. That's sick. Yeah, and I can see it.
That looks good, Dev. We ready?
Okay, sweet. All right, coming out of chapter 20, Patroclus is dead. Achilles, his best friend, killed by Hector while wearing his armor. That grief has turned Achilles into something beyond human. The entire Trojan army is running and from him toward the river of Xanthus. Xanthus, not retreating, running. When the Trojans hit the river, the army split. Half run the long way towards the city walls. The other half panic and jump straight into the river. Full bronze armor and all, because Achilles is right behind them and it doesn't save them. Achilles goes after them, sword drawn through the current, cutting down the Trojans on every side. The river runs red. He pulls 12 prisoners out alive, specifically to sacrifice Patroclus' funeral. That's the headspace he's in. Deep in the chaos, I'm behind the slide, I'm sorry. Deep in the chaos, he spots a face he recognizes, Scaean, one of Priam's sons. He captured the same man before, sold him into slavery overseas, and the kid made it all the way back to Troy. Now he's unarmed, exhausted, crawling out of the river right in front of Achilles, the luckiest man alive. Scaean grabs Achilles' spear with both hands and drops to his knees in the mud, begging for his life. He pleads, shared blood, past mercy, everything he has. Achilles listens to every word and kills him anyways. Patroclus is dead. He was better than you. I'm going to die young too, so why would I spare you? No mercy left. He throws his body in the river and tells the fish to take it. The river god Xanthus has been watching all of this and has had enough. His waters are choked with Trojan corpses. He can barely flow. This is his domain, and Achilles has turned it into a mass grave. Xanthus rises from deep in full divine fury. Xanthus confronts Achilles directly. Your killing is too much for even a god, too much even for a god. Leave my river and take your slaughter onto dry land. Achilles basically says, I'll stop when every Trojan is dead. He keeps killing. So Xanthus stops asking and starts acting a massive supernatural wave surges up and crashes into Achilles from all sides, sweeping bodies into him, battering the shield, caving the banks around him. For the first time, Achilles is physically overwhelmed. He grabs an elm tree on the bank just to stay upright. Achilles, the fastest man alive, runs from the river, and the flood causes him to keep his pace. And keeps pace. He can't fight it. He can't outrun it. He stops and prays to Zeus. This is the most embarrassing death possible for the greatest warrior alive. Zeus hears him. Neptune and Minerva come down in human form and take him by the hand. They tell him, "You're not dying today. That is not your fate. Hold your ground and drive Trojans into their city." That steadies him. But Xanthus isn't done. He calls his brother river Simois, combine their floods, drown Achilles, burn him so deep the Greeks can never find his bones. Even a god never breaks up to even a god never backs up, needs backup to stop Achilles. Okay. Juno sees this from above and turns to her son, Vulcan, god of fire. "Get down from there and burn the rivers out. She'll send the winds from the sea to feed the flames. Fire versus water. A goddess just made it elemental. Vulcan unleashes everything. The plains burn, the riverbank trees burn, then the fire turns on the river itself and boils it alive. The eels and the fish float to the surface dead. Xanthus feels his own waters cooking around him. Xanthus breaks. He cries out to Juno and surrenders completely, swearing he'll never help Trojan again if she calls Vulcan off. The same river that called for backup to drown Achilles is now begging for goddess for mercy. Juno stands down. With the river done, the gods turn onto each other directly. Mars attacks Minerva, picks up a boundary stone from the earth and knocks Mars flat. Venus runs to help. Juno sends Minerva after Venus. Zeus watches from Olympus and laughs. Neptune challenges Apollo to fight, and Apollo refuses. Mortals aren't worth two gods hurting each other. His sister, Diana, calls him a coward. Juno grabs Diana by both wrists, takes her silver bow off her shoulders, and beats her with it. Diana flies to Zeus in tears. The gods are a mess. Back on the ground, Achilles is driving the last Trojans towards the wall. Old King Priam watches from the watchtower as his armies collapse. Dust-covered, weaponless, barely running. He comes down personally and orders the gate wanders. Hold those gates open until every man on that plane makes it inside. Apollo sees Achilles' momentum is unstoppable and intervenes. He takes the form of a Trojan warrior and steps onto the plane. Achilles gives chase immediately. Apollo leads him on a full sprint, the wrong direction, always just out of reach. Behind them, the gates of Trojan close. Every Trojan is inside. Apollo just saved the city with a foot race. Apollo drops the disguise. Achilles realizes he's being chased by a god. He turns and runs back alone across the empty plain. The dust is settled. The river is quiet. He arrives at the sealed gates. Battlements lined with silent Trojan faces looking down. And they're on an empty plain outside the walls, not having fled with everyone else. Standing and waiting is Hector, alone, armor on. And this is where book 22 begins. Book 21 is the chapter where the world itself tries to stop Achilles and fails. A river rises against him, two rivers combined against him. The gods intervene on both sides. Fires battle water across the entire plain. The divine order of the universe fractures into open brawling. Achilles never stops moving forward. Not because he is unafraid, he praises Zeus in genuine desperation in the riverbank. By the end of the chapter, every obstacle has been removed. Every god has retreated. Every Trojan is behind their walls, and the stage is completely empty except for 2 men. That is not an accident. The entire chapter exists to clear the world down to the simplest and most inevitable truth. The highlight I had from this book was grief. It's the most dangerous force in this story specifically, more dangerous than the army, any god, and any river. Achilles was already the greatest warrior alive before Patroclus died. What he has become after is something the world has no category for. The Trojans couldn't stop him. The river didn't stop him, and the gods couldn't stop him. The only thing that will ever stop Achilles is Achilles. And this is where we begin book 22.
Nice, dude. Oh, you went. All right. What's our feedback for Devin's presentation?
I like the red. For a lot of it, especially when he's in the river and the dead bodies are in it. It kind of reminds me of like, just recently in JJK when Maki was like killing the Zeus clan. They went all red for a second, So I think it really shows like the bloodiness of the war. I thought you summarized the chapter pretty well, So I think good job.
Yeah, I think art style on this one has been my favorite so far. It combined like the first one I think you had with the black and red comic book style, but this one had like a touch of like oil painting to it. And
you guys want me to share? I'm sorry, stop scaring. I'm gonna share my screen.
Yeah, pull it up. Yeah, that looks sick, dude. When I was imagining it in my head, it did feel like this. Like you captured how bloody the river was. Just very gruesome, but I don't know. Overall, the quality looks sick, and like the shots of the faces too, kind of mix it up, give it more.
Yeah.
Dynamic meaning.
I did recognize that because the ChatGPT is really good at picking up what you're trying to get it to do. However, it does have that same style that you and Jay have. And I didn't want to even though there's like a lot of inconsistency, even when it talks about like the gods fighting, like I couldn't get that down within that Weavy program or the platform. But I think just the stylistic approach, like you can even tell like the faces aren't really fully developed, but just the detail of like grittiness is like really very an artistic style that I really liked.
You're muted, John.
I feel like just an idea I had in my head that would like go along with like your guys' style of like your presentation is like, I wonder if you can get a chatbot that can read your storyboard on a presentation, like where you just click play and then like it reads it with it. Because like, I know reading all that is like low key a lot of work and like you got to go through it, and it's like, I wonder if a chatbot can do that for you and you just press play. just an idea.
Well, you can do a voice recording and then hit play on your presentation and it'll go through it for you.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. My feedback, the imagery's sick, dude. I love the overarching red tones to it. It goes really well with this chapter with, how gruesome it is. The characters kind of give me zombie vibes, bro. Like,
this one specifically, dude.
Yeah, so it's super sick. I like it a lot. I think you did a really good job. I'm interested to learn more about that Weavy program, so we'll talk about that after. But I think you did a really good job, man. Thank you.
It's like Red Dead Redemption, 28 Days Later combined with like one kind of vibe. It's pretty sick.
Yeah, dude, I like it.
Great job.
All right. And with that, we'll go ahead and jump into book 22. So before I jump into that, I kind of laid out what the creative vision I have has kind of developed into up to this point. So the vibe I built for the Iliad is basically a cinematic blend of epic Renaissance painting and modern film lighting. When we're on the battlefield with the mortals, everything feels heavy and real, including like some harsh sunlight, like dust in the air and bronze clashing and firelight at nighttime. It's supposed to feel like gritty and grounded, like you're actually there. But when we shift to kind of the immortal realm, the tone changes and the lighting gets softer, a little bit more golds and blues, almost glowing, and everything feels smoother, almost like it's a different time. I believe it kind of created this really cool contrast where the human world feels like raw and brutal, while the divine world feels like elevated and separate. But both feel like they're both part of the same story. So it's just seen through a different lens. So that's kind of the creative vision that I've done so far. And I think I'll carry this over into the Odyssey when we start in a couple weeks. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let me know when you guys can see that. And a forward, this presentation will be a little bit longer due to how important this book was. Book 22 was, I feel like, the culmination of the whole story. So I do want to make sure that I cover as much of the detail as I can. Can you guys see the screen?
Now we can.
It just loaded. Oh, okay. About to say off the hit, catch you off guard. If you have to give it in one sentence, what made it such a big deal?
Achilles and Hector finally fight.
Boom. I love it. All right.
Damn, all right. They're doing that Naruto run.
That's what I'm saying.
All right. That was good. I'll be quiet now.
It's part of the story.
Here we go. So the Iliad, book 22. The Trojans, safe behind their towering walls, drank deeply, gasping at relief. But outside, Achilles drew near. Before the Trojan gates, one man remained, Hector, unmoved, unyielding, waiting. Apollo revealed himself. Why do you give chase to me, an immortal, when I have distracted you in chase? The Trojans have hidden behind their walls, and you cannot kill me for death, cannot take hold of me. Achilles was angered at this and turned toward the city of Troy. Now only one thing remained. From the walls, King Priam cried out, tearing at his hair while he spoke. My son, do not face Achilles alone and unsupported, or you will die at the hand of Achilles, and I cannot lose another son. But Hector stayed still before the Trojan gates, intent on doing battle with Achilles. Hecuba, Hector's mother, Hecuba wept. Her voice broke, but Hector did not move. He stood firm before the gates, fury in his eyes, but beneath it, a thought crept in. If only I had listened. Polydamous' warning echoed in his mind. I have ruined us. Still, he did not retreat. Achilles came on like a god of war. His armor burned with light. His spear gleamed. He was no longer a man. And Hector, the great defender of Troy, felt fear. He turned and ran. Across the plain they ran, Achilles behind, Hector ahead, relentless. They passed the twin springs, one boiling, one cold, a place of life, now shadowed by death. From Olympus, Zeus observed the chase, and his heart felt pity for Hector, and he considered saving him. Athena spoke, his doom is sealed, and Zeus relented, the balance tipped. Like a hound chasing a fawn, Achilles closed the distance as Apollo no longer provided strength and endurance to Hector. And every time Hector neared the walls, Achilles drove him back. Hector was now without immortal assistance. Athena came to Achilles. This ends now. She approached Hector in the form and with the voice of Deiphobus, his brother. Stand and fight. And Hector believed him. He was no longer alone, or at least so he thought. He stopped running. He turned and faced Achilles. Hector spoke. I will no longer run from you, Achilles. Let me either slay or be slain. Let us give pledges to one another by our gods. Let it be agreed between us that if Zeus vouchsafes me longer stay and I take your life, I am not to treat your dead body in an unseemly fashion. But when I have stripped you of your armor, I am to give you up to the body of the Achaeans, and you do likewise. Achilles answered, there is no pax between us, only death. Achilles threw his spear, and Hector dodged. The spear struck the earth. Unseen, Athena returned the spear to Achilles. Hector threw with true aim, but Achilles' shield held the blow. Hector cried out, Deiphobus! But there was no answer, and the truth hit him. He had been deceived. My doom has come. Still, Hector did not falter. Hector lunged sword in hand like an eagle descending. Achilles moved, precise, unstoppable, and he found an opening and struck the fleshy part of Hector's neck, and Hector fell, breath still in him, but fading. Hector spoke as he was dying. Let not dogs devour me at the ships of the Achaeans, but accept the rich treasure of gold and bronze which my father and mother will offer you, and send my body home, so that the Trojans and their wives may give me my dues of fire when I am dead. And Achilles answered coldly, Dog, it shall not be. They could bring 10 or 20-fold ransom and weigh it out for me on the spot, with promise of yet more hereafter. The king could offer me your weight in gold. Even so, your mother shall never lay you out, and make lament over the son she bore, but dogs and vultures shall eat you utterly up. With his final breath, Hector warned him, I know you. I know what you are, and was sure that I could not move you, for your heart is as hard as iron. Look to it, that I bring not heaven's anger upon you on the day when Paris and Apollo, valiant though you may be, shall slay you at the Scaean gates. His soul departed, and Hades received him. Achilles stood over him. He accepted his fate, but not his humanity. He pierced between Hector's Achilles and ankle, bound it, and tied the body to his chariot. The horses ran, dust rose, and Hector's body followed, broken behind him. From the walls, his mother screamed. King Priam collapsed in grief, and the city wept. King Priam rushed the gates, but he was held back by Trojan soldiers, helpless. At her loom, Andromache, Hector's wife, wove textiles and obliviously prepared a bath for Hector's return. Then the city's cries reached her, and she ran, heart racing. From atop the Trojan wall, she saw Hector dragged through the dust. Darkness took her, and she fell faint. When she rose, she wept for her husband, for her child, and for Troy. And so Hector fell, not as a coward, but as a man who stood when fate came to him. So the major lessons of Book 22 are fate, pride, and the cost of glory. So pride leads to downfall. Hector refuses to retreat despite the warning from Paradyme, and his honor binds him to a fatal choice. Pride, even when noble, can lead to irreversible consequences. Fate cannot be escaped. Hector runs, but he can't outrun destiny. The gods withdraw, and the end comes swiftly. Fate in the Iliad is not avoided, it is only faced. And glory comes at a cost. Achilles wins, but loses compassion, and victory becomes brutality. Greatness without restraint leads to moral decline. And that is the end of Book 22. Thank you.
Go ahead and keep it up. That shit was good, dude. That shit was really good. Go back to the beginning, like there's like a really open landscape like that. Let me see what that looked like. I don't know. I can't think of the exact slide, but I thought it was really good, man. I like the art style a lot. I thought it was a lot of detail. I love how you wrap it up. With it's kind of like a video game at the end. All in all, I think really good.
Thank you.
The piece I like the most from your presentation is how I like them in all your presentations, but this one specifically, like, I think my favorite part of your presentation is towards the end, like the wife, like almost looking outside the doors and not like she can hear. But I've always liked how you shown like the gods to be intertwined into like the different environments. You kind of know exactly where you're looking. Like if you're in like the heavenly world, or if you're like here on Earth. I feel like you always do a great job at that, intertwining the gods with the humans. So then this one was like really cool because it's just two people, and then there's the god that comes and intervenes. So yeah, great job.
Yeah, it was kind of tough to get ChatGPT to kind of, like Athena has that like blue look to her. I was trying to like show that it was Athena as his brother Deiphobus, right? And so it kind of threw this like blue hue around it to kind of be like, oh, like it's Athena. I kept prompting ChatGPT with like further stuff, but the more I kept prompting it, the more it kept getting further away from the stuff, so
it starts tripping out.
Yeah, I mean, even like the part here where, okay, so he binds his feet, right? He like fish hooks both of his Achilles and ties his feet together, and then ties that to the back of his chariot. I kept being like, okay, we're dragging Hector by his feet. And it kept like giving me this, and I'm like, all right, bro, like I'll have to just kind of live with this.
Dude, I ran into the same problem. Like it kept showing Hector being dragged in the front,
right?
And like the horses running at it. I'm like, no. Like how could that work? Like I want you to think about it, But so I know what you mean, and then like it just wouldn't do it.
Right.
But I thought really good details, dude. Like just like zoom in on that picture right there. Like just look at the dirt, Yeah. I thought a really good presentation.
Yeah, I wanted to include in one part here, they're chasing after each other, right? And then they pass the springs of Scamander, right? Where we have the really cold stream back here and then the hot spring over here.
But go back one. No. That literally looks like a video game rendering.
Dude, it's fucked up because I kept prompting it to like, I ran out of credits at one point. I was like, yo, because of everybody else using it, give me 28 minutes, come back and try it again. So I went and hit the gym and came back. I was like, all right, maybe it'll work now. And it gave me this. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to have to wait.
Dude, it literally looks like a video game. Like you're being chased or you're chasing them. Like,
right.
And then the switch up, go to the next one too, the art style. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that one, honestly.
That's sick.
Yeah. I mean, the detail, like, the hot and the cold spring, I tried being like, oh, there's a mature wild fig tree in this image, and it would just kept fucking it up. So I was like, you know what?
Never mind.
That's going to have to work. The more detail I gave it beyond a certain point, it was like, I can't handle that. So, yeah.
Dude, I just love the way that you narrate too. It's your spacing, the cadence in which you speak, it gives it so much more dramatic effect, and it's a really great just presentation in that aspect alone, with the really cool artwork. And I loved how your like this one, go to the next slide. So there's that one, then go to the next one. I like that they're similar shots, but the next thing immediately after just followed, like Athena just like appears in that same scenario. Like if you're presenting this to an audience and you click like the clicker, it felt right. Like it's like as you're speaking, it's like Athena appears and it's the same scene, and then she just shows up in that corner. I really liked that same, I guess, cadence happened too when you zoom in on Hector's face when he like realizes that he's gonna die. It's the same scene, you just zoomed up on him, like the one previous to going to that one. It was like a little dramatic effect. Yeah, I like that. That was sick. So
Hell yeah.
great job, dude.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
All right. That brings us to book 23, which is David's presentation this week.
The
Send it.
Dilly dilly.
All right, we're gonna go full screen this time, boys. Promise.
Full screen and full send.
Okay.
All right. I can see it.
Oh shit. Can I get rid of this? Oh shoot. Can you guys see still?
Yep.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, it's good.
Dope. All right, guys. So we finally did it. We're at the end of the Illy Dilly. This is book 23. For the changes for this presentation, I wanted to switch up the God of War look. I think I was getting a little burnt out of it and wanted to just try something new. So going into this presentation, I wanted to capture the oil painting look of the book. And so I wanted to make every slide feel like it was an oil painting that you were like diving into, or at least just like captured just like one scene with everything that's getting talked about. I did like the full bleed on the last ones, but I just wanted to try something a little bit different. I also want to point out too, the book that I was reading was, it is the Iliad, but it's the illustrated Iliad version. I wanted to get something with a little bit more pictures. I don't know, just like works better for my brain. But in this book, I noticed that there's just like a whole bunch of different like styles of paintings, and a lot of them are in this, I want to say, yeah, like romanticism style, like look, kind of similar to what Jay has his style based on. And I don't know, I was just getting inspired. I was like, why don't I just try like that look? I liked how in these paintings you can see everything. It's like it captures the emotions on people's faces. And it's like the whole painting, the painting itself is like the story of the chapter, if that makes sense. So let's go for it. Let's dive in. So where book 23 begins, morning around Patroclus. The Achaeans return from battle, but instead of rest, they are pulled into mourning for Patroclus. Achilles refuses food and comfort, consumed entirely by grief. He orders the Myrmidons to honor Patroclus, circling his body in full armor as final tribute. The army gathers around the fallen companion, and sorrow spreads through the ranks. Patroclus is no longer just a soldier. He is the emotional center of the army's loss. The war pauses, but the weight of death presses heavier than ever. Oh. Achilles' vow of vengeance. Achilles stands over Patroclus and declares that Hector will pay for his death. His grief transforms into something sharper, focused, violent, and unstoppable. He promises that Patroclus will not be buried until Hector's body is brought back in return. The moment shows a shift. Achilles is no longer withdrawn, but fully re-entering the war with purpose. His words carry both love and brutality, blending mourning with vengeance. From here on, his actions will be driven by both honor and rage. The funeral feast and Achilles' refusal to cleanse. The Achaeans prepare a meal, trying to restore strength after battle. Achilles, however, refuses to eat, choosing grief over survival. He isolates himself emotionally, separating from the rhythm of the living. The others eat because they must continue, but Achilles chooses to remain in mourning. This contrast shows two responses to loss: endurance versus obsession. Achilles is already moving beyond human limits in how he processes grief. The ghost of Patroclus appears. As Achilles sleeps, the spirit of Patroclus appears to him in the night. The ghost asks for proper burial, explaining that he cannot rest until his body is honored. He also asks that their bones be buried together, symbolizing their bond even in death. Achilles reaches for him, but the spirit fades like smoke, leaving him alone again. This moment confirms that death in the Iliad is not just physical, it carries spiritual consequences. Achilles wakes with renewed urgency, now driven not just by grief, but by duty to the dead. Preparing the funeral pyre. At dawn, the Achaeans begin building a massive funeral pyre for Patroclus. Warriors gather wood, organize the space, and prepare the body with care and ritual. Achilles cuts his hair, offering it as a final tribute to his fallen friend. The act is deeply symbolic, representing both personal loss and sacrifice. The army participates together, turning grief into action. The scene marks the transition from mourning to ritualized honor. Achilles' personal sacrifice. Achilles performs brutal sacrifices at the pyre, including animals and Trojan captives. The acts are meant to honor Patroclus and send him properly into the afterlife. The violence here reflects the values of the time. Honor is expressed through offering and blood. Achilles' grief takes on the darker edge, blending ritual with revenge. The pyre is lit, the flames rise, consuming everything placed upon it. Death is no longer quiet, it becomes a spectacle and statement. And actually, that was the image for the sacrifices of the dead and the burning of the pyre. Mourning through the night and the aftermath. When the fire dies down, the Achaeans carefully gather Patroclus' bones. Achilles places them in a golden urn, treating them with reverence and precision. The act is quiet, controlled, and deeply respectful. It contrasts with the chaos of battle and the violence of the pyre. Burial becomes a final act of love and responsibility. Through this, Patroclus is given lasting honor among the Greeks. The burial mound and transition to games. A burial mound is raised over Patroclus, marking his place in memory. Achilles then announces funeral games to honor him further. The tone begins to shift from mourning to competition. The army moves from grief into structured activity. This reflects a cultural truth. Honor continues through action, not silence. The games become a way to transform loss into legacy. The chariot race, skill, strategy, and divine interference. The first and most important event is the chariot race. Heroes compete fiercely, using both skill and strategy to gain advantage. Antilochus uses clever maneuvering rather than pure speed to place well. Disputes arise, showing that competition can create tension, even in honor. Achilles acts as a judge, ensuring fairness and rewarding effort. The race reflects both glory and the imperfections of human ambition. The games continue: strength, conflict, and ego. More games follow: boxing, wrestling, running, and combat sports. Each event showcases different strengths: power, endurance, intelligence, and discipline. Not every contest ends cleanly, and disagreements must be resolved. Achilles distributes prizes generously, sometimes beyond strict fairness. His leadership here shows growth. He is no longer consumed only by rage. The games unify the army, restoring morale after loss. Book 23 is a grief transformed into honor, or is grief transformed into honor, showing how warriors process loss through action. Achilles transforms sorrow into ceremony, ensuring Patroclus is remembered with dignity and power. The funeral rites and games reflect a culture where honor extends beyond death. Grief is not hidden, it is expressed, shared, and structured. The army moves forward, but not without acknowledging what was lost. In this way, the book becomes a bridge between mourning and continued purpose. So the final recap, the underlying moral idea. Book 23 is ultimately about how humans confront loss and preserve meaning in the face of death. It shows that grief, when left unchecked, can become destructive, but when shaped through ritual and community, it becomes something enduring. Achilles begins the book consumed by personal sorrow, but through honoring Patroclus, he reconnects with others and with a larger sense of purpose. The funeral rites and games reveal that honor is not just about how one fights, but how one is remembered. The Greeks understand that death is inevitable, but dignity is chosen through action. In the end, the book suggests that legacy is built not in victory alone, but in how we carry those we have lost forward. That was book 23.
All right. Well, I like the layout. You can keep it up so we can see it. We got Inception going on. Just go back to the beginning. Can we go back to the first slide? There we go. I like that. What was that chat generated, or did you find that one? Because I've seen one that looks very similar to that.
This was chat generated.
Okay. Well, in general, I think what the pros are, I like the consistency of your layout. I like how it's framed with like kind of little titles above. So all that felt really neat. I thought it flowed well. I thought your speaking was good for it, and I didn't feel like it was too long. So I think good job.
Thanks.
I really like these. For some reason, I get like a stylistic of poem. I hopefully continue doing them like this. For some reason, I liked this style, or it could just be the story of which you had to describe this in. I think your tone of voice just matches this story specifically because of Achilles' burial service, and then also the transition into the morning. I think just kind of just fits so well. I do like this stylistic approach. This is that image right there. I think this is why I like stay away from like GBT, because I've never liked that cloudiness that it creates, like even brown. And you and Jay have been able to like work around it, but like when I worked in my thing, and I could easily, it just something about that does not like. But your image, your first image is really good, and it definitely gives you the Renaissance era of elegance and to meaning to power through I guess like for this specific story, there's power in respect through like death. And so
okay, let's pause right there. I love how the games were boxing. I've done that. Wrestling, we're doing that. It's good. This is a story as old as time, so Devin talking about new hobbies, bro. Get into wrestling, bro. The Iliad says so.
By the way, too, in my book, John, they were doing this all nakies, dog. So
it'd be gay not to, dude. It
sounds like you're kind of party
not to. Nah, they're probably wearing about what you were showing right there.
The sumo wrestler diaper.
Yeah, that's all you need. You get a couple grips on that.
Yeah,
easy.
Quick flip, quick point.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What do you got today?
Dude, I like this art style a lot. I think it puts into it like really paints the picture, no pun intended, how artists of that time would have maybe depicted this war happening. I think the art style is great. I like it a lot. I like the overview at the end, that scene, the narration you had during the scene of Achilles sitting in the sunset. That narration you had at this point, this slide of kind of covering what the book 23 was about, and kind of wrapping it up with some key takeaways. I think that was really, really good. So all around, I like this art style. If you move forward with it, love it. If you go back to the God of War, love it. If you do more things, I'm going to love that too. But all around, I think you did a really good job.
David, before you exit out, can you go back to the games real quick? Okay. Just to talk about this chapter, because I liked it. While I was reading it, all of a sudden out of nowhere, it's like all of a sudden just a bunch of games, like a mini games between all the characters that we've kind of come to know, and like all the ones that we know, like Ulysses and like Ajax's, like they're all good on like these certain games, But I love how this one time when they had a dispute, Achilles gave like some urn to who was it? It was the older guy. And he was like, thank you. He's like, in my prime, I bested them all.
Nestor.
Thank you. Yeah. He's like, in my prime, everyone knows it. He goes, at the last war games we had, I bested them all. He goes, they came to trickery to have to beat me out. Like he's like, yes, Grandpa. I know. Take the urn, be happy. He's like, I will treasure this urn, Achilles. Right?
Yeah. Back in my day.
Yeah, I like that. It really was for the story too. Like, it's kind of like when you're watching like a TV show and it's like a filler episode after something like really dramatic happened, and then they're about to close off. It's like it kind of brought some characters that you've come to know back in a different light, not the war light, them just competing for funsies and glory, And he's like, hey, you cheated. You did not beat me via skill. You beat me via trickery, and I demand you say that.
Yeah.
When it came to the chariot races. So I like this chapter in general.
Yeah, it was very filler-esque, like you were saying.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. One thing that I was noticing too is like, they had done boxing, they'd done wrestling, they did the chariot races. And then Achilles was like, you know what? We're going to do sword fights. And first wins. And then Ajax is fighting, I think Menelaus or Meriones is one of those. And
no, it was Diomed versus Ajax, maybe.
Yeah, okay. It was one of those. It's Ajax versus somebody. Yeah. Ajax swings, dude ducks it, and then he starts going for the neck, like he's gonna kill.
The crowd's like, "Oh, whoa,
yeah,
buddy,
like,
whoa." Yeah.
And Achilles is like, "Oh, okay, that's enough of that." Like, it was so crazy to me that, like, okay, we're having these funeral games or whatever. We are attempting to actually kill our friends and like our peers.
I think it, like to me. From just training like in jiu-jitsu, or even if like playing like a casual basketball game, it's like, yeah, we're playing just for funsies, and then like the first point gets scored against you and you're like, all right, I'm playing for real, bro. Like, I'm not gonna lose. Like it's like you play for fun until you start to lose and you're like, okay, I'm going for the neck, I'm gonna win this. Like just like that, like, and they are homies, so I thought that was very like I can see that, you see that dynamic.
Like, whoa.
Yeah, you're like, whoa. It's like, dude, they're fine, they're friends, it's fine. Kids like, come on.
Chill,
I'm gonna do 2 prizes because you get the shield, you get the armor. Oh, that's right. He made them put on the armor of of Hector. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the guy who's the son of a god, his name is, what's his name? Scion?
Simon?
Simus?
Yeah, they put on those 2 armors. Yeah.
So crazy, bro. It'd be like that, bro. As soon as the basketball bounces, it's no more games, bro.
Yeah, exactly. I hope when they make the movie Odyssey, they pick. I don't know how they're gonna make it, but I hope they can show the story of like Achilles and like all of this before they get into the Odyssey, because I feel like this was these 4 chapters were so fucking good.
I think they fucked up, bro. They should have made it a TV show. The movie.
I would watch it then.
Who knows though? Who knows? They can fuck it up. I've seen Disney's latest Star Wars shows. Well, actually, Mandalorian's pretty good. So what am I saying?
Movie.
I'm talking about Lords of the Ring show. Anyway, we can keep going. This was good.
I feel like TV shows, you could take the time to be really detailed, like what the armor looked like, things like that.
Like Game of Thrones style. Sure,
yeah.
Sure.
So I think they should have made it a TV show. But with that, David, I think you did a really good job. I like this art style. I hope you move forward with it. If not, I'm sure you're going to give something really good, but all around a really good presentation, man.
I think, thank you, man. Sorry. I want to keep that art style for sure. So going into the Odyssey, I want to try and capture scenes into a painting. I think that's like going to do it justice.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
All right.
Sweet.
All right.
With that takes us to book 24 with John wrapping it up. This is the final book of the Iliad, and it will be taking us into the Odyssey, actually. So we'll go ahead and let him share this.
All right. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. I pretty much just made the presentation the same. This time I decided to try to take pictures I could find off the internet and bake it into here, because if you just do a Google search of different scenes, there's been a lot of stuff like already made that's like well known with the story. So, and from that, I'm going to go ahead and do it. Book 24 Priam ransoms the body of Hector's funeral, the emotional conclusion of the Iliad. Where we are in the story, Hector has been killed by Achilles. Achilles has dishonored the body for days. The war pauses as grief replaces action. The focus shifts from battle to humanity. Achilles continues to drag Hector's body around Patroclus's tomb, refusing proper burial rites. His intense grief has transformed into inhuman cruelty, representing the danger of unchecked anger. The gods take notice. Apollo protects Hector's body from decay. The gods condemn Achilles' lack of respect. The divine perspective, even enemies deserve dignity and death. Zeus restores order. Zeus intervenes in the conflict. He commands that Hector's body be returned. This reinforces the theme that fate and justice must be upheld. Overcome with sorrow, King Priam mourns his son deeply. He chooses to risk his life for Hector, deciding to personally face Achilles in an act of extraordinary courage and paternal love. The role of Mercury in this. Mercury guides Priam on his perilous journey, ensures safe passage through the Greek camp, represents divine support for human courage in desperate times. So right now, King Priam pretty much loads up this huge wagon full of gold and different things to offer Achilles. And it's pretty much like a suicide mission. Everyone's like, don't go. Like, you're going to go through the camp of your enemies. They're going to kill you before you even get there. And the gods already wanting to honor Hector, because in the background, they're like, hey, this guy's never missed a sacrifice. He's always let us know that he appreciates us. Like, we're going to let Achilles do that to him. So Mercury honors King Priam for his courage and gives him like a safe journey. Priam travels under the cloak of night, bringing ransom of gold, treasures, and gifts. He walks willingly into the camp of his enemies, a scene dominated by suspense and danger. Priam arrives unseen and stands before Achilles, the very man who killed his son. This direct confrontation forms one of the most tense and pivotal moments in the entire epic. In a profound act of humility, Priam kneels before Achilles and kisses the hands that tragically killed his son Hector. This gesture is deeply shocking to both Achilles and the audience in the tent. And one thing, a little like note I remember from the book, is that during this, King Priam, he talks about that he had 50 sons. And he goes, and Hector was the last one, literally the hero of Troy. And he's like, this war's taken them all from me. And he's like, all I want, okay, anyway. Priam appeals to Achilles' humanity by saying, remember your father, invoking Peleus. He appeals not to honor, but to their shared human experience of loss and fatherhood. Achilles begins to see Priam as a father figure, causing his intense rage to soften for the first time. This marks an eternal shift from a relentless warrior to a compassionate human being. In a powerful moment, both men weep together, Achilles for Patroclus and Priam for Hector. In their shared sorrow, the enemy lines dissolve, revealing their common humanity. Achilles agrees to return Hector's body, showing compassion instead of vengeance. This pivotal decision represents the profound moral climax of the epic. A sacred pause. Achilles granted King Priam a truce of 11 days to mourn and bury his son. Hector, with the fighting slated to resume on the 12th day in the Iliad, Priam requests this time to properly mourn, and Achilles agrees to hold off the Greek attack for that duration. Day 1 through 9, the Trojans gather wood and prepare for the funeral. Day 10, the funeral pyre for Hector is lit. Day 11, the Trojans build a burial grave for Hector, and day 12, the truce ends. Fighting is set to resume. Priam and Achilles share a meal together, a powerful symbol of peace, respect, and a shared morality. It reinforces the idea that all individuals, even enemies, suffer alike. just to go back on this, thinking about this, like these guys both pray to the same gods. They walk similar paths of life, and they respect each other for the different things that they've accomplished. Priam successfully brings Hector's body home, where Troy erupts in a profound mourning. The immense loss is deeply felt across the entire city. Andra, I don't know how to say her name, laments the loss of her husband and protector.
Andromache.
Andromache, thank you. Andromache laments the loss of her husband and protector. How do you say that one, Jay?
Hecuba.
Hecuba grieves the loss of her beloved son. Helen mourns the loss of Troy's greatest defender. Each perspective deepens the tragedy of Hector's death. A pyre is built and lit for Hector, and his bones are gathered and honorably buried. At long last, Hector receives the proper respect and burial rites he deserved. And so they buried Hector, breaker of horses. The epic ends with burial, not victory or conquest, emphasizes themes of morality, loss, and the cost of war. Core themes. I picked planets because all the gods represent different planets. Shared humanity between enemies, the limits of rage and vengeance, mercy and compassion in conflict, the power of empathy to transform, respect for the dead and proper rights. Key takeaways. Priam's courage and humility transforms Achilles. Achilles' rage, though powerful, is not permanent. The gods enforce moral balance and dignity. War does not erase humanity or the capacity for connection. That's Jupiter, aka Zeus. The story of the Iliad. So I added a little bit extra because I ended the book, the Iliad, so there's a little bit extra just on the whole book, a whole little takeaway. The story of the Iliad. The epic primarily centers on the wrath of Achilles. It covers only a short period in the overall Trojan War. It focuses on profound human emotion, not just battle tactics. Character arcs. Achilles from unyielding rage to grief and ultimate compassion. Hector from dutiful prince to tragic hero and sacrifice. Priam from grieving king to a figure of profound moral courage. Just some key turning points from the whole book. Achilles withdraws from the battle due to wounded pride. This starts the story. The Trojans gain momentum in the war, pushing the Greeks to the brink of total loss. Patroclus, wearing Achilles' armor in one last attempt to boost morale and to turn the tides of the war against the Trojans, is killed by Hector, igniting Achilles' vengeful rage. Achilles returns to battle, fueled by guilt and rage over his fallen comrade, unleashes his wrath, devastating any Trojan in his path. Hector is killed by Achilles in a duel outside Troy. Priam's plea leads to the return of Hector's body, redeeming the ending. Major themes of the Iliad: rage and its devastating consequences, the pursuit of honor and glory in battle, the interplay of fate versus free will, the omnipresent role and influence of the gods, the profound human cost and suffering of war. The Iliad shows that while war is driven by pride and anger, it is ultimately defined by loss, grief, and the fragile humanity shared by all. In the end, even the greatest warrior cannot escape fate, but he can choose compassion. Coming soon. Thank you all for following along. And this was the page that we were greeted with when we turned the page and finished the Iliad. And I'm very excited to start off the Odyssey. So here we are. And that's my presentation. Oh, whoopsies.
Great closer. Great closer. I think to sum up the chapter with Well, you summarize it really well, to the point. And I like how you go back and talk about the events, on how this like shaped these two characters, and not just the two characters, but like the gods and all the war that happened in between the moments.
Right.
That kind of like is refreshing, especially if someone is following with us, like to remember that there are massive events that were turning points. And at the beginning of the story, Achilles almost tuned out of the war. So it's like he becomes someone completely different by the end of the Iliad. And I think it's the shape of the human experience that is formed within all of the characters, especially the main characters. Hector, at one point was the main character, the warrior working through war, and then Achilles turns into that. And so when I was reading this section, I just kept thinking of like that saying, same side of the two sides of the same coin. At the end of the day, they're mortals, and they're going to feel some sort of like grief or anger or something at some point. It's just it's the vicious cycle of the human experience. And just because someone's winning now or losing now, that's going to change eventually. And we all live in like different phases. So I think this is like the Iliad was a cool representation to see through the lens of anger and emotion and the universal laws of how to operate as a leader, or even as just a follower, someone that's being commanded. So great job to summarize this.
Thank you.
That slide had me dead.
That was good, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, dude, you killed it. I love the wrap up, the overarching like summary of the moral concepts behind what Homer was trying to say, or what he did say, through a really like gruesome story of war. And I think that was like really key, and just like wrapping everything up with a bow. So good job. I love the cadence and presentation. Let's see, gives strong point. I think even a younger audience could appreciate like the usage of those anime gifs in here and stuff. So also, dude, you had Achilles looking beautiful, dog. Blue eyes,
Dude,
blonde, you know.
He's supposed to be. He's literally. I mean, he's the man that when he comes in, like he changes fate. I think he's literally the GOAT. You know.
He handsome.
I'm sure he's a very handsome guy. Yeah, come on.
Yeah, dude. What the heck? He looked like
Chris Hemsworth. Very got Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah.
Chris Hemsworth as Achilles.
Oh, dude. Yeah. No, this was my favorite. I think shot too. The meal was really, really epic. I like this one.
Yeah, I like this right here because, like, again, King Priam, like, you know, back in his day, you know, he was a guy, you know, that did so much that he had 50 sons and has a kingdom, you know. But what's it all for? You know, like he lost all of his sons. Now he's just an old man, you know, and like Achilles comes from a guy that only had one son, and that one son's destined to die too, you know.
And his whole city's about to get ransacked.
Yeah, and his exactly, Jay. Like he goes, at this point, I think I know for sure, like we lost the war. I would just like to honor my son, and then we will accept the results of the war. You know.
What'd you guys think of his wife, Hector's wife? Just immediately, as soon as she found out, just started like her lament was probably the harshest, or like it felt just like to read, you know. But also she was like, I don't know, it was like kind of like she was just super angry with Hector. Like in the beginning of her lament, she was just like, my son's gonna grow up without a father. He's gonna have his land taken from him, and just kind of, I don't know, made me feel icky. It was like, ugh, like it sucks, you know.
It's the truth, though, you know.
Yeah.
It was a tragedy, you know. I was thinking about reading that because I have it highlighted. It's page 384 and 385 in our books. I was like, do I read all this? It would be like another 5 minutes. She goes off, you know?
Yeah.
Woe is me, oh Hector, indeed, to share a common lot we were born. You know, I had to like really, I wanted to include that, but I was like, it's a little long, you know, because she really did go off. She's like, our son is fucked because he died. Somebody's going to take him as a slave or throw him off the side of this Trojan wall as like a payback for Hector killing their friend or whatever. Like, yeah, that it was intense. Like the ending of book 22, it was brutal. As I'm reading it, I'm like literally exclaiming like, holy fuck, like, holy shit. You know, I'm like reading it like, damn, like this is crazy. Yeah, did you guys have anything else to add before I jump into John's feedback on the ending with Andromache's kind of response? No?
Send it, Jay.
All right, John, love that you tied the bow on top of the Iliad. Like, here's what happened. Tied the bow on top of that. Here's kind of the overarching turning points in the book. Like, I love how you tied the bow on top of the book. I appreciate you doing that. I think that'll really put into perspective some things that have happened across the entirety of the book for the viewer. So I appreciate you doing that. 2, how dare you show an image of the One Piece crewmates while I'm making my way there? Fuck you for that.
That I thought that really summarized, like, if anyone's watched One Piece, that's the going merry, okay? And
yeah.
It's a very emotional scene for the crew, and yeah, it's a really emotional scene for the audience too. And then that's what it felt like. I was like, that's what really encompassed it for me. When like the whole crew, if you're the audience watching that, I mean, you get a little teary eyed because you're like, the going merry was always there for them. You know?
I don't know who at the bottom left is there though. I mean, I just got to Brooke. That's like where I just got to. So I was like, who the fuck is that at the bottom left? I thought I was like looking at something brand new.
They could just be characters just like for that arc too.
Okay. All right. Whew, I thought I saw a new crewmate. I was like, whoa. But altogether, I think you did a great presentation. I like what you've built here. I think it's a great building block for what's coming in the Odyssey. So I think you did a good job, man. Thank you.
Preach.
Oh yeah. All right, let's jump into some overview questions. What was your guys' favorite part from the whole book? Did you have a favorite part?
I mean, I enjoyed the war games. Honestly, I enjoyed the filler episode. Like things that stuck out to me. Like I kind of like Devin touched on this earlier, but when Achilles is absent from the story so early on, Hector kind of becomes the main character that the story's centered around, and that the guys are centered around him. And then, you know, as Achilles enters, it's like the story narration kind of like is like a magnet towards him now, and like he's kind of got the weight. He's got like the weight of fate on his side. You know, where before it felt like Hector had that because like all these gods and stuff were helping him. You know. Not that Achilles didn't have help from gods too, because he definitely had tons of it himself. So I just kind of like that part of the story. I thought it was good. I heard people kind of talk trash about this, you know, and I enjoyed it so far. I thought it was a really good epic. I thought it was like a drama, you know, of like at the end of the day, what did war really get? It's like courage and honor was part of it, but loss was a huge part of it. You know, grief was a huge part of it. Guilt was a huge part of it. You know, again, like Achilles came out because he was guilty because like he let his best friend die in his armor. You know, when like he could have easily just won the whole war if he just decided to.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like grief was a bigger part of the story than anything else.
Yeah, I think that's the closing thing, right? Like at the end of the day, and like I said, this is just a short window of the whole war. Like they're there for like I think a decade or something, you know. So
9 years prior to this.
Yeah, so 9 years exactly. So 9 years of what we just witnessed, and this was like the final push of like the climax of it.
Yeah. I'm interested. I'm really curious on how the Odyssey starts. I would say because I think at the beginning of when we were talking about this, we like kind of picked up that the vibe of this book wasn't as impactful as the second book. Well, we might get to the Odyssey and be like, oh, the Odyssey's way better than the Iliad, like hands down. But I really enjoyed reading this. which I wasn't expecting to really enjoy Iliad because we picked Odyssey, but this is a great story. I think the war, I think overall, I don't say I like one favorite. There's not like a one favorite thing, but I think the overall conception of things continue moving forward, even through the hardest times of life, through death and through pain and agony, with needing to just, I guess, like breathe and take a moment. I think that this is the depiction of war times, and time doesn't slow down. It's either we move forward as a unit and continue moving and do the burial and respect, or we lose the front and start losing capacity against the other side that's trying to take us out as a total unit. And I think this was a great depiction of what times like this probably felt like. I think grief is probably the biggest emotional component when thinking about this story, because there's so much lost on so many fronts, and there's so many people that just disappear that I thought like would be bigger characters, but just fade. I completely forget about them. Yeah. And obviously we kind of see who are the big names that stand out at the end of the book, that still get mentioned. But at the beginning of that, it was very unclear. At the beginning of the book, it was very unclear. So I think just overall, my favorite piece of this book was the component of moving forward, even through the hardest times of life. And also it changes. Your transition of the cycle of life changes. And then these times in this book specifically is a wartime. It's death and tragedy. But I think life shows itself in this capacity in every aspect of your life, even just in things that aren't just physically observable. So I really enjoyed this book.
Nice. Yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. One thing to note was how Homer wrote in to the book pieces of humanity in there, like, in current day life, men of this age and people of this age in general don't understand really what it's like to live through war in this capacity. Like, I would say Vietnam War was probably the first part where people actually started getting into a glimpse of what war is like, with images and videos and things like that. But like with this book, we're reading about what's going on in a war. You get pieces of the grief, you get pieces of the anger, you get pieces of the frustration, the confusion. It's really illustrative of like all the different components of war. But I like that Homer wrote in parts with humanity written in there. Both sides, I forget what book exactly it is, but there's parts in the war where both sides agree, we're going to take a break. We're going to have funerals for the people that died, or here at the end where King Priam goes to see Achilles and they both agree, we're going to wait 12 days. You can have a funeral for Hector. I like that he wrote in those pieces of humanity into the gruesomeness of war and battle. So I do like that. I think that's a good note to bring up.
Yeah, I think this whole book was a really, really like dramatic take on war. Like I just kept thinking about like, oh man, I can imagine like going through this real war process, like we see more in movies and stuff where it's just like very like plug and play, or like just like there's a winner, loser, boom, boom, boom. But it felt like in this story, the way it was written, it felt like there was winners and losers on both sides, and there's this constant struggle of like crushing defeat, like pride, your honor being stricken away. Even with the gods too, the ego was involved, and it was just kept going in a loop the whole time. And as I was reading it, I was just like, oh damn, sheesh, like just death, like body parts being ripped apart. So it's like hyper specific and detailed. But like I was thinking about it too, like if you're in the war, in the battlefield, you're like actually looking at people getting their like ligaments torn off, and you're getting you're like, oh shit, my spleen just got or whatever just got ripped out. You know, it's giving so much context to the really like passing moments that have really big impacts on people, and even just the strategy of war and the humility of all of it was something that I'm going to take away from the Iliad, is that the bow on it for me at the end was the like the humanizing of like loss, and that I don't know, like honor and the need for coming together as humans was still there. So that was interesting.
Jay, I think instead of a TV show, they could do an anime version. I think the Japanese really know how to tell a hero story, and they go, oh yes, okay, we know how to do this. Yeah,
throw the shonen spin on it. Yeah. All right. Did you guys have a favorite character? Look over the whole story, not just the end.
Hector was my goat for a long time. I mean, all the bangers, like Ajax had his time in the sun, you know, and he gets to live. Ulysses gets to live. He had his time in the sun. Old Nestor had his time in the sun for me, you know.
Yeah.
For me, one of the characters, what's his name with an S? He's the son of one of the gods. He's on Troy's side. He broke the wall. One of the walls.
Sarpedon.
I like that guy.
Yeah, Sarpedon was cool.
I think when I take like an overall balance, if I were to choose one person, probably be like, I don't know. I try to find like a balance, because I feel like there's so many, like you could choose the heroic effort as the catalyst, like for decision. But I think Minerva, like there was so many parts where she like tried to keep the playing field like balanced and keeping things like not balanced.
Minerva's heavy on Achilles' side, no?
Yep.
I thought
so. Like the opposite of balance, really. She kept the scales out of whack. Now it's pissing Zeus off.
Who's what was the other? Not Minerva.
Juno.
Maybe I'm thinking of Minerva differently.
Apollo.
I don't know if there was. I thought it was Minerva where she. There was always like, if there was a counterbalance, like obviously she's on Achilles' side, but she was never in favor of like giving. No, that's not correct. But I think that she probably is by far one of my favorite characters. I think I do just like the Greek side a bit more, so I'm probably a little biased, but I would say Minerva is probably my favorite.
Okay.
Great god.
Interesting. I didn't expect anybody to go with the gods character. Okay.
Or it's Achilles. Achilles, like I think just the story of him, like in the beginning of the story, it's like you don't even think he's going to be like, but you hear his name so much growing up. And then at the end of the story, it's like, oh, that's that guy. That's him.
That's that guy.
Yeah.
Me, I think it's still Ajax, still the GOAT.
Nice. Consistent.
He really, he's just like the strongest of them all. But like he was very like business and duty. He protected a lot of people too, which I like.
He's a good soldier, bro.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He knew what he had to do. Yeah, Ajax was sick, bro.
He didn't complain.
Not at all. Not one time.
That was like,
fire was burning
he probably had all the same values of like honor, glory, and all that stuff, but not once did I hear him complain through the book. So for me, he's like a true.
All right, let me test your knowledge. Which Ajax was your favorite?
The one was the one with the big shield.
The big one.
The big one.
The biggie.
No, I couldn't tell you the two last names if I tried either. I was just a trick question.
Yeah.
Freaking for me, I think it was Hector, bro. I mean, if you think about it like two football teams that are fighting, that are going at each other, right? You have a football team that has all these superstars, right? The Greeks, they have Achilles, they have Agamemnon, Ajaxes, they have Menelaus, Diomed, they have all these different like heavy hitters, bro. These are like superstars for their positions. And all that I can think of for the Trojan side was Hector. I mean, they had his brother who was a little bitch.
Nah, Sarpeion, son of a god.
I mean, he had one little.
He broke a wall. He broke.
He broke a wall.
Dude, you know how hard it is to build a wall? We've been trying to build one in this country for a long time. Right?
Dude, he pulled a roll from Ed, Ed and Eddie. I am the son of a shepherd.
He was a son of a god. I think it wasn't just Hector, but yeah, you're right.
But if I think about it, right? I mean, there's gods on the side of the Greeks. There's gods and sons of gods on the side of the Trojans, but they had so many more people helping. I feel like the Greeks, and so I think Hector was just that guy. Like, he didn't go out the best. Like, he got scared and ran and stuff. So I didn't really like the way he went out. But you know, even his last words were like, "I know you. I know who you are. Don't get too full of yourself because you will die at these gates." You know.
Yeah. It was a very, like, thinking of the overall story, it still turned out to be fairly balanced because the Trojans were winning like majority of the war, and then when Achilles finally like figures out the death of his best friend, it kind of like completely shifts.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of looking back at the whole story, how Achilles starts the story, little bitch.
Yeah.
You know? And then like how we're ending the story, he's dragging the body around of Hector because he's so sad. And I mean, kind of the way that his relationship with Patroclus kind of sus. And there, like, oh, I miss his body, and like the way it was ending was weird. But like Achilles' character arc, obviously the best combat vet out there, right? But at the same time, it was a little weird. Like he kind of entered the story and ended the story. At least he ended up being a human, being like he had some humanity.
The whole thing is like he redeemed himself before like he's staking his whole life on this, you know, with his revenge, and like he knows he's gonna die. And the redeeming thing is that he saw some humanity in King Priam.
Yeah,
you know? And I don't think he was a little bitch in the beginning. I think King Agamemnon was a little bitch in the beginning. I think Achilles was right, you know?
Yeah, but he was like, let me take my ball and go home type shit. You know?
Bro, sometimes if a fucking dick-ass dude wants to fucking keep being gay on the court, sometimes you have to. You know what I'm saying? Like, he can go play a game wherever he wants to. He's fucking Achilles. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's like, bro, I am the fucking Greek army.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
like, go win the war without me. Oh, wait, you can't. And guess what? He proved his fucking point. You know? Yeah. So, like,
it really is Toby of the team for real.
Yeah. So I think he proved his point. I think his guilt, his ego fucked everything up. You know? Yeah. But at the same time, it's not necessarily his fault. Really, King Agamemnon's fault. Terrible leadership.
Yeah. Don't ever take someone's woman, bro.
I mean, come on. Okay, you don't take the person's woman who's letting you win all the games.
You don't take Kobe's chick, bro.
Yeah, it's like, dude, you got to keep Kobe happy. You know?
Yeah. All right. I think that brings us to my final question. Were there any interesting lessons that you picked up from this book?
I think I'm just going to hit on the same cycle of, because I think of like the overall book, there's a cycle of like win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, all the way up into the end. But even if you zoom in on the character, there is that same cycle happening individually on the battlefield where people are picking up wins and then going back down in losses or some sort of battle that like they weren't great at. So I think across the plane, it's like a funnel, like there's a top down. And if you look across that cycle, like it happens all the way from the full story, all the way into the individual characters that are portrayed in the story.
Okay.
For me, the key takeaways for the book, that's what you asked. What'd you ask exactly again?
Were there any interesting lessons that you picked up from this reading?
Interesting lessons. I think the lesson being taught is the price of ego, the price of pride, and what that cost Achilles. What the price of pride cost King Agamemnon, it cost him a tremendous amount for his nation, you know? And I think it's like the whole a day late and a dollar short, you know, where Achilles does enter the battle. It's kind of too late though, you know, like the Greeks have suffered tremendous loss. Like, sure, they're going to win, but like didn't have to. Best friend lost. And then the pressure of his guilt, knowing that he could have navigated this better, pretty much he accepts his suicidal path, you know, as he thinks that's the only way to redeem himself. So those are my key takeaways from it. And the counter to that too, courage and inner morality can sometimes grant you unbelievable achievements, I think, you know, through the gods, you know, like for me, Jesus Christ, you know, like King Priam at the very end, again, he does like a suicide mission, is protected, and they're like, hey, we know what's right and what's not right, and we'll let some stuff slide, but like this one we're going to make right, you know? And because he was courageous enough to do the thing, he was successful in it because they chose to protect him as long as he walks, you know? And I think that's a lesson in itself too. And the person he met, everyone thought it was like impossible. Like when Hector died, he goes, I know you, you're going to feed me to the dogs. Right. But here he is later having a meal with his father, Hector's father, and crying with him, you know, coming full circle to that, like the Trojans, the neighbors of the Greeks, really are no different than me. You know, we both suffered like tremendous things of this battle, and just shit how it is, you know? So I like all that.
Nice.
What was the question again, Jay?
Were there any interesting lessons you picked up from this reading?
Lessons. Yeah, the cost of pride, ego. I think that's a big one. I don't know if I could, maybe the cost of being prolonging war too, or just being like a society where we put a lot of weight on the pressure, like of Hector, or like this one person to like be the pinnacle for what it means to be in this war. And like the whole city was lamenting because Hector died. So it's like, that was like the baseline. I know things were different back, you know, during that time period. It's like, this is like our leader. This is like our hero. There's that dynamic, I think, with two war. Like there's so much death, and it felt like it was kind of like there was reason, but also it's like, wow, it didn't really have to be like this. So whatever that is, like, I guess like the cost of war.
The Trojans were going to have to die though. At the end of the day, like if Achilles would have stayed in the war, like they were all going to die then, you know? So it was really one last push to maybe defy fate, you know?
That, yeah. Maybe what does defying fate look like in your life? I don't know.
The thing is that the book wraps up that there is no defined fate, you know? Hector's destined to die, Achilles is destined to die, Troy destined to fall. You know, like this was all predetermined, and like the whole war was like already predetermined. It just like they still had to go through all the motions with their all still, you know.
Things were gonna happen, but they were thinking they could offset that, or at least just put in the good fight and like drag it out longer. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of on a tangent from that. Like there was points in the story where the gods were like, yo, we have to intervene because Achilles is about to defy fate.
Yeah.
It brings me back to the story of Naruto, not Shippuden, the first one.
With Neji?
With Neji, right? Neji and Naruto are having a fight in the Chunin exams. And, you know, he's like, you can't defy fate. You can't defy fate. And Naruto's like, well, I guess I'm going to have to change it. And kind of coming back, wrapping that into the story of Iliad, it's like there are points where like fate can be influenced, you know, like you aren't set to a fate. You can change things. I think that was an interesting takeaway kind of based on our discussion here that kind of sparked something in my brain. It's like, it's not, you don't necessarily have a fate. You can influence kind of the outcome, you know?
well, to go off of that, it kind of seemed like some people had more control of fate than the others, if that makes sense. Like this whole story starts because Achilles is withdrawn from the war. Just his absence, like, moved fate in a direction, you know?
Right.
Like that opened up Hector, like Devin was saying, like kind of becoming the main character, and then fate moved in that direction. And then just Achilles just coming back again, like readjusted the course of like what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I think that's why they brought up the in the previous 4 chapters that we read, where they talk about the gods almost going against each other and then going like. I think that was the pivotal point that like you see in the book. Obviously, it's towards the end of the book, and you know the Iliad's coming to an end, but it is the pivoting rule, because at the next 3 chapters, their gods are fighting each other.
Yeah, and like they're balancing each other out. Like one person does this, then they do that, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to second and third what John and David said with the cost of pride. You know, I think it's an important note to be self-aware of pride and hubris that we may have. You know, I can think back of a couple moments in my life where pride kind of maybe clouded judgment. You know, when we're thinking about the story, Hector, Polydamas was like, yo, Achilles is about to enter the war. Maybe we should go back into the walls of Troy and kind of revamp and kind of figure out what we're going to do. And he's like, hell no, bro, quit being a bitch. Let's fight. And, you know, pride clouded Hector's judgment. And because of that, you know, you see in book 22, he turns over and he's like, Deiphobus, get my spear. And Deiphobus says, come on, he's been completely deceived. And he takes a second and he's like, I fucked up. My pride ruined us. And the cost of that pride is that now I'm going to die. The men of the Trojan army are going to die. The wives are going to be taken. The children are going to be taken, and this city's going to be sacked. So there is a grand cost of pride in this story, you know. So it's important to be self-aware when we're being prideful and not to allow us to get to that point.
I think right there you just highlighted a good point, like what people can take away from this. If like how does that lesson? How can you translate that to your life? Like, I know, especially a lot of times, I'm sure it still happens now, but I can recognize it in the past when I was younger, especially my dad trying to give me advice, you know, and I'm just like, nah, like I got this shit figured out, low key, you know. So like, nah. And later, I would call him. I was like, dude, you were so right, you know. And so sometimes pride can keep you away from hearing good guidance, just like how Hector didn't hear Patroclus's advice that, like, hey, no, not Patroclus, sorry. What was his brother's? Polydamas, yeah. He should have listened to Polydamas. They could have retreated into the wall, regrouped, and then lived to fight another day. You don't know what tomorrow would bring. And this was like in the heat of the battle, and Hector was like, nah, I think I can win this whole thing, like you said. And then then fast forward to where he's at, he decides like maybe I can take Achilles on instead of just running away, where he could have been running away from him indefinitely. He's like, damn, I'm going to lose this one too. Yeah. He reflected. He was like, fuck, I should have listened. My pride. So I thought that was really good. You know, we keep talking about Achilles' pride, but also look at Hector, you know?
I mean, the Bible talks about pride, right? I mean,
pride's a sin.
Yeah. So it's important to be self-aware when we're being prideful, because who knows, we might be overlooking some good advice, like John said, or the proper and correct route that we should be probably taking, but refuse to take because of pride. So yeah, I think the overarching kind of themes of the Iliad is how, you know, the cost of pride, with Agamemnon, Achilles, Hector, all these various characters that pay a price for pride. You know, courage and what you can do with courage. You know, Ajax being like a bulwark of the Greek army and being courageous enough to make a stand when needed. So, yeah, I mean, I think those are the kind of overarching themes of the Iliad, and couple more questions. I want to ask you guys if you guys had to rate this book, or if you had to give it like, S, B, A, B, D, E, F type of rating. What would you guys give it? Kind of where'd you guys feel this book fit?
I'd say it's a C for me. I just feel like it was just a lot of like just like war play, but there was like, you kind of have to like read through the lines. You kind of have to see through the what the story is about, with the universal laws of letting pride take over.
Wow.
But I would definitely say like a C, because it's just a lot of killing, a lot of death, and a lot of war. There's not a lot of differentiating points from like chapter 2 to like chapter 20. It's a lot of the same cycle that's repeating itself over and over and over again.
Okay. All right. How about you guys? S, A, B, C, D, F. Give me that. I'm gonna start doing this for every book now. I'm interested.
So, what would I grade it? Like, I'd be like, hey, this is my rating, like on a rating.
Yeah. 1 out of 10 can't use 7. Come on.
Honestly, 6. I think the 1 through 10. So maybe that's like a C plus. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of like what Devin was saying. I wouldn't recommend this to someone to read just off the rip, because I think it would be too dragged on. I think it was good. It had some good morals, and the way it's written is very poetic and beautiful in some parts, I will say. I think just overall though was it felt like a war drag, and that's not my typical like, oh, I can't wait to read this. But there's parts where if you get through the dragging parts, you're like, oh wow, this happened, and then that you get that like little sense of satisfaction. But it was like very, I don't know, dragged on.
Okay. I respect it. John?
1 through 10 can't use 7. I'm going with an 8. I enjoyed it. I think this is a Western classic. I think that you don't have to read through the lines behind this. I think the book's so descriptive that like it pretty much puts everything right out in the open for you. Sure, I think is it a little bit wordy. I don't disagree, but I think if especially, I've heard that this is supposed to be an oral story. They weren't writing this story down at the time. So I think listening along while reading it had a tremendous value add to my comprehension of the story. And I think that's maybe the correct way to listen to digest it, maybe. I think there's a lot of good lessons in there. I think the overall one is that like at the end of the day, the redeeming thing is that they're both humans fighting the same war pretty much for the same reasons, and that's a big story for all of us with all the things we're dealing with. Like we're always villainizing the other and in like a bunch of different categories, and it's good to remember that truly we, for the most part, are the same, and we're not so alien from each other. And I think that's the whole dragging on of the war. I fucking enjoyed it. Like it reminded me of an anime, like I'd finish the next chapter and be excited to read the next one, because of like, who's Hector fucking up? What are they going to do about the wall? Like, how are they going to are they going to burn the ships? Like I enjoyed it personally. So I'm very excited for the Odyssey. I hear it's the better of the 2 books, like written wise. So, I mean, I'm excited to see what happens.
Hell yeah. For me, I think I'm with John. I think this book was an 8 out of 10, if not a little bit higher. It's certainly better of a read than Beyond Good and Evil. I think, I look forward to the reading every week. Yes, the chapters were a little bit long. Yes, the language was a little bit weird. But kind of going along with some of the audiobooks to kind of read along with and kind of get maybe a little bit more of an interesting voice into it rather than my own was a good little addition to the reading. It's so epic, the involvement of all the different characters, like the wives and the dads and like King Priam in that case, and then all the various characters and how they all handled themselves in war. I think it was each chapter, other than a couple, was like sitting on the edge of your seat type of read. And so I think I'm with John there. It's an 8 out of 10. I'm excited to see. I've heard that the Iliad is boring, and I disagree with that statement. I think the Iliad is sick. And I've also heard the sentiment that the Odyssey is better. So with me, voting the Iliad as an 8, I'm excited to see where the Odyssey goes. So 8 out of 10 for me. All right. Would you guys like to add anything else before I take us out of here?
One thing, I just think there's a big list of books, that are considered classics, and I think go ahead and tackling it and actually reading it, actually doing it, it only benefits you, it'll only help round you out, it'll only help balance you out. And so this being one of them, whether you enjoy it or not, I think there is value into diving deep into what lots of people before you have actually respected, and not that propaganda, oh, this is good, so yeah.
I think by reading this book, the audience can get a grasp on some of their favorite stories. Like, I know some of you guys have favorite heroes out there, Marvel, DC, you name it. They might have some aspects that come from this book.
One thing I'm really excited about the Odyssey is that I know there's tons of stories that are just the Odyssey with a different skin wrapper on it. This is a fun one, but the SpongeBob movie is literally the story of the Odyssey. There's a Cyclops in it. There's King Neptune. Yeah, you can Google it. Wow. The SpongeBob guy literally just took the Odyssey and made it SpongeBob. The whole SpongeBob's whole journey is the Odyssey. And we should watch it. We should watch that for funsies or something after we read it, and compare it to it's up for frame by frame, just translation of the Odyssey, just via SpongeBob.
I love that movie, bro. I remember that.
And that's why you like it so much, because it's a good story, right? There's a lot of good things happening in there. The characters really are tested, right?
Yeah.
So it's great.
Hell yeah. All right. Anything else to add? Nope. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Paradyme Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show and this Iliad series. Before you take off, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that little notification bell so you're notified every time we upload a new episode, especially with this Odyssey series coming up. We're going to do a follow-up here, so make sure you're staying up to speed with us. And drop a comment down below. What was your favorite part? Who was your favorite character? Was there any interesting lessons that you learned from this reading? We'd love to engage with you down in the comment section down below. All right. And with that, remember, who you are now equals who you'll be tomorrow.